Hey, what was that woman's name from the Revolutionary War? Betsy something? No, not that one. I'm talking about Betsy Hager. You don't know who she is? Well, maybe you've heard her called Handy Betsy. Maybe Betsy the blacksmith. Still no? Well, let's fix that. So, first off, we're all pretty much aware you can't really win any big battles without effective weapons, right? And during the United States Revolutionary War, Betsy Hager made sure colonist weapons could fire reliably. Well, and she also nursed the people who fell victim to them. Okay, right up front, I'm gonna say this. There are sources who insist that she is nothing more than a myth and legend. But whether they like it or not, all legend is based in fact. So let's do this. Betsy Hager was born near Boston in 1755, though some sources say 1750. Unfortunately, when she was 9 years old, she was left an orphan. And back then, that meant getting a job, which did not inherently offer a paycheck per se. Instead, kids like her were bound, meaning they were given to families as a servant. Those families provided food and shelter. The bound were required to stay with those families until such time that they could be adult servants. Or if they were women, they were way, way luckier because they could get married and become a different kind of bound servant. Oh, so lucky. So lucky. Woo, I let myself get loose there for a minute. Moving on. Now, being bond meant that their birth families had been dirt poor. No rich relatives to fall back on, no inheritance. Betsy was bound to a farm family. She was taught to handle all the feminine responsibilities: cooking, cleaning, running a household, tending the sick and wounded, how to take care of a man. And she got a moral and religious education. Yay, doesn't that all sound amazing? Oops, there's that dang salt again. Guess I better move on. So, Betsy was never formally educated beyond basic reading and writing. Had to be able to read the good word, right? But she did get an advanced education elsewhere with her hands. Grow up, not like that. Good gravy. You're fucking degenerates. Anyway. No, she could use and repair construction tools and machinery, like her loom. See, she was a master weaver. And if something went wonky with her loom, she couldn't just sit around waiting for some dude to get around to fixing it. So she fixed it and carried on weaving. Then she was setting up and maintaining it all by herself. The family apparently decided that she was worth a little more than just being a wife, because she also got really good at woodworking and metalworking. And she couldn't have done either of those things without their permission. Because that was men's work. Beginning to think I forgot to put the lid on my salt shaker. You might just have to deal. By 1775, Betsy was a young, beautiful woman with a reputation. No, not like that. The fuck is wrong with you? Her reputation came from being able to fix anything mechanical. According to sources, at that time she was working for a blacksmith, dude called Samuel Leverett. But she wasn't shoeing horses or making cooking utensils. She was repairing muskets and becoming Samuel's right-hand woman. Also at that time, tensions in the colony were ramping up. In case you've forgotten or never learned, the United States Revolutionary War took place from 1775 to 1783. Independence and all. So the US wasn't quite the US yet, and folks were fed up with the Brits, who didn't want the US to become a thing. How were they going to tax people if they gave up control? I mean, fucking duh. Which also meant they tried real hard to restrict the colonists' access to weapons. Except they forgot that necessity is the mother of all invention. Huh, the mother, not the father. Would you fucking imagine that? Oops, maybe the salt shaker's completely broken today. Moving on again. Local militias didn't necessarily have great muskets. There wasn't exactly an official national military yet, so not really any stockpiles. So volunteers generally had to bring their own. But muskets were expensive, and dudes were usually using what they had to hunt. A lot of their muskets were in desperate need of repair and upgrade if they wanted any chance against British weaponry. A blacksmith who knew how to do that? Priceless. However, it does show how desperate they were for those types of blacksmiths, since they allowed a woman to do it. The horror! Look, I'm trying to scoop this salt back in. You want to help me out here? Anyway, she and Samuel worked in a secret room next to his workshop. Would have been kind of fucking dumb to do it out in the open. Fucking duh. At times, they were upgrading and fixing muskets that were so rusty, no one thought they would ever fire again. Spoiler alert, because of her, they did. She was grinding, filing, polishing, and assembling firearms as quickly as Samuel could pass them to her. Hundreds of reconditioned muskets later, and she knew everything there was to know about muskets and munitions. Oh, right, I forgot to say that part. She was also making ammunition, because even upgraded muskets weren't exactly useful without that. Again, fucking duh. As one story goes, she was putting together ammo and ran out of cloth to wrap the charges. So she hiked up her skirts. Oh, for fuck's sake, no, not like that. You need to get your mind out of the gutter. No, she did it because she needed more cloth. She didn't exactly have time to just wait around for somebody to bring some. So she cut up her undergarments and donated them to the cause. Kinda awesome, right? That wasn't all she did. Remember those nursing skills I mentioned? Okay, maybe you weren't paying attention. She was very good at making medicine with herbs and roots, especially for families of soldiers who were battling illness or injury. She was there. And her cure rate was pretty fucking awesome. Allegedly, she would also head down to the front lines to attend to the wounded, regardless of which side they were on, because they were people. Now, after the Battle of Concord, she was searching the battlefield for weapons to salvage and repair when she happened upon 6 cannon that the Brits had abandoned. They'd been plugged up or whatever, so they couldn't fire anymore. Except she knew how to fix that, too. She had them brought back to the workshop, fixed them up, and in the next battle, colonists used them against the very people who had abandoned them. Sucked to be them, didn't it? Okay, so to be fair, there was a source I found that claimed that story was complete fiction, a proven myth. But I wasn't able to corroborate that with any of the sources I have access to. So I'll let you decide. If you know the original source, pass it on. I'd love to know. But if you've paid attention to any of my content, you already know my opinion on that. So 1783, War Won, America independent. Well, at least for those who weren't native. But that's for another time. In 1787, Betsy got hitched to a guy called John Pratt, and they had 4 children together. Eventually, the family settled in Pennsylvania, where they became well-respected members of the community. And she became especially well known as a healer. Betsy Hager passed away in 1843, aged 83 years. Today, you can visit the historical marker at her grave, and she's remembered locally as a hero. In Grand Island, Nebraska, there is a chapter of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, which is named for her. Based on things I've researched in the past, I almost didn't include that. But I will plug my salt shaker on that opinion, since they seem to be making some positive changes. For example, in California, any woman at least 18 years old can apply for membership, regardless of religion, race, or ethnicity, if they can prove lineal descent. You know, they have to come from a patriot who contributed to the war. But that salt in me thinks it might have been to save face, since in early 2024, many members quit and literally said it was because national leadership indicated they would allow to join. The head of the DAR said to do otherwise would amount to discrimination. Gee, you think? Another member, Bren Landon, said the DAR is trying to change the idea that it's an exclusionary organization for socially conservative women. Quote, like many organizations, things change over time. And thank fuck for that. Yeah, okay, I didn't keep the cap on the salt. But I am literally the salty historian. Why would you expect differently? So again, there are sources who claim that Betsy's story is absolutely fabricated. But I'm not ready to buy into that, because I repeatedly find certain people refuse to give credit to women, even if they helped win a war with their undergarments.